the Weekly Mag. Today we celebrate our show number 60. We get the latest news about big data with the data scientist, epidemiologist and economist Joe Brew. We listen to the jazzy piano of Mar Vilaseca and tongue twisters, romanticism and the Great Wall of China in our words and facts. All this and much more on the Weekly Mag, your TV show in English, hosted by Marcela Topor.
Hello and welcome back. Welcome to our 60th program. Thank you all for following us and watching us all this way. We are ready to tune up your English and hopefully surprise you again with interviews, curious facts, games, comedy and whatever is entertaining or educational. So that's why we start as always with words and facts today, brought to us by Mario Serra, Ana Priscila Magriña and our restless reporter Humberto Gonzalez. Welcome all.
Hiya.
Hi. So after weeks of difficult terms for easy concepts, today Marius is going to tell us about something that is easier to name than to pronounce, and that is tongue twisters. Marius, right?
Yeah, as you can see, tongue twister is a thing difficult to pronounce. Normally used by alliteration, making sentences which are quite difficult. For instance, he threw 3 free throws.
Excuse me?
Can you say that? He threw 3 free throws.
He threw 3 free throws.
Wow, very good.
I feel like I'm speaking Spanish from Spain. It's from Spain.
Ana Priscila, come on, try.
Why do you make me do this?
He threw 3 free throws.
He threw 3 free
Free
throws.
throws.
Something like that.
Wow,
Thank
you guys are good.
Thank you.
Okay.
You didn't think I could do it.
It's not just a game for kids, but all professionals like actors or journalists or politicians, journalists, public speakers in general, do it to train themselves. So we are going to train ourselves and we can play a little with some tongue
I'm already
twisting
scared.
your
Okay.
tongues. Okay.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
I can say, for instance, absurd phrases.
Okay.
I don't want you to repeat this.
Okay.
Just me. 9 nice night nurses nursing nicely.
Don't worry, we're not going to repeat it.
Impressive.
Surrealistic, like Groucho Marx, or can you can a can? It's a can or can a can?
What?
Okay, I can't believe you actually
You
did
can
that.
read the subtitles.
What is that?
Yes,
Okay.
we can.
We'll practice a little bit with that, but first we'll also remind, we have a few minutes not to solve last week's guess word, right?
That's it. It's easier, but don't tell it now if you know, because we've got some minutes to think about it. It was the last guess word, a talkative bank clerk. A talkative bank clerk. It was 6 letters, and I think Humberto has
Yeah,
got
it's
it,
easy
but
for
don't
us.
say it
Don't
now.
worry, don't. It's easy for us, yeah.
Okay, and yesterday many couples celebrated Valentine's Day. And as Humberto has shown so many times his love for romanticism, obviously we sent him to look into it on the streets of Catalonia, Humberto. And this week you went to?
Well, obviously you can fall in love anywhere, but I think you can fall in love faster in Sitges.
Oh.
Don't judge me.
Okay, you went to Sitges and you were interested in?
I really wanted to ask people how it is that they enamor or seduce somebody else, if they actually look at them in a certain way, or if they give them flowers, or if they do the Viking way and they throw them against the wall. And
With a tongue twister. You can twist their tongues.
they could fall in love with that too.
Yeah, why
The
not?
tongues are working. So, anyway, here's a sample of what I've got.
Okay.
Show me your romantic move. Like, do you swear? Do you like snare like that and slowly, like in slow motion?
Like I do something with my face, like always like this, or like this, you know?
What's up, honey? Is that right? What's up, honey?
It looks like Orlando Bloom, you know? Like, what's up, honey?
I don't know how to do that.
Well, I don't think I can do it again. What's up, honey?
No doubt that a face can impress you in many
The
ways. So
eyebrow.
what else did you ask them?
Well, it's not so much just what I asked them, but what I got them to do and
Oh my
what
gosh.
I found myself doing. I don't think I've done as much on camera as I've done on this episode. You'll have to wait and see.
Okay.
Well, we can't wait. Well, anyway, before that, Ana Priscila is back to shake our beliefs by proving again that some facts that we hold true are actually false, Ana Priscila.
Yes, and today I want to ask you first of all, have you ever been to China?
Never.
Not yet.
Never.
No?
No.
But you may know that there's the Great Wall of China, obviously, and some people believe that you can see the Great Wall of China from the moon. If you are in the moon, you can see it. Have you ever heard that
I've
before?
heard of that.
But I've never been in the moon.
So you can prove it. Well, I'm sorry to tell you guys, I'm here to debunk it. You can't see the Great Wall of China from the moon. It's not that I've been into the moon or I've been into China, but I've been reading a little bit about it. The Great Wall of China is more than 20,000 kilometers in length. Originally, this can be a tongue twist. How do you say that?
Tongue twist.
A tongue
twist, yeah.
twist.
Yeah.
It was originally conceived by Emperor Qin Shi Huang. I don't know if I pronounce it.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds like a tongue
correctly,
twister
in
indeed.
the 3rd century BC, and at the beginning it was built to prevent invaders to get into the country, but I have to tell you that it was never useful for this matter, but it was useful to create this powerful symbol of China. And why people started believing that we could see this huge wall from the space.
Where did that rumor start? Because I heard it
Thank
too.
you for asking this
I heard
question
it
because
too.
I do have the answer.
I think everybody heard it,
I have
so
it
yeah.
right here. The thing is that in 1904, the English journalist Henry Norman published a book called The People and Politics of the Far East. And what did he say in this book? He said, besides its age, it enjoys the reputation of being the only work of human hands on the globe visible from the moon. So people reading this book started thinking that you could see the Great Wall of China from the moon. And afterwards, in 19 something else, 36 or 38.
Something else, yes.
There was another author who also said that you could see the Great Wall of China
But I have a question. But
Yeah.
In 1904, you
Yeah.
said?
Yeah.
From the moon?
Yeah,
But
nobody had been there yet.
nobody.
I don't know where they got it from. It was obviously not a scientific fact because nobody had been into the moon, but maybe yes, maybe it was just like literature and people believed it and made it real. I don't know. The fact is that we have still been thinking for a long time that we could see the Great Wall of China from the moon until astronauts got to the moon. And then they discovered that it is not true. It is very difficult to see from the naked eye something from the Earth. You can just see like a greenish, bluish, whitish things, but you cannot see them.
Maybe it was cloudy that day.
Maybe it was cloudy and they couldn't see anything.
Okay, so it's just a myth, right?
It is just a myth, my friends.
Another urban legend. So if you want to see the Great Wall, the best way to do it is to actually go there, no, and see it for yourself.
You can go to China, you can surf the internet, or you can use your imagination. But I wouldn't recommend you to go all the way to the moon to see the Great Wall of China because you won't be able to see it.
Okay, and now it's time for the famous tongue twisters with Mario Serra. Marius, we can't wait.
Okay, today I don't need to explain very much what's that. Tongue twisters are based on alliteration, as I told you. So the repetition of difficult sounds make them more difficult. I've chosen 3 typical examples in English. I'll try to read the first 2 of them by myself.
Okay.
And the third one, I will give to you to
gosh.
try a sort of race, a time trial with this chronometer.
Oh my God.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
So I start with the first one. Very difficult for me, and it will be ridiculous. But please,
it will be fun.
just read, because if you just hear to me, you won't understand anything. How much would a chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? He could chuck, he would, as much as he could, and chuck as much wood as a chuck would if a chuck wood could chuck wood. Well,
Seriously.
this is what
Well done. Well, I'm impressed.
a golden minute.
What the hell did you just say?
Well, it's a
it
tongue
was
twister.
It's about a woodpecker
I'm
chucking
crying.
wood, right?
Yeah. A
I
woodchuck
don't know how I understood that.
is a bird.
Well, I think
Really?
most of the time we don't really need to to look for any meaning in these tongue twisters, no? Because the most of the times they are totally
They are
absurd, right?
absolutely
I mean,
phonetic.
it's,
But it's quite
they don't mean
interesting.
anything, actually, most of the times.
They are quite interesting if you translate them to another language in which they are easy.
Because it's hilarious, right?
And absolutely hilarious. The second one, I think it's better to pronounce, and it's about a girl called Betty Butter, right?
Who?
It's
Betty Butter.
Betty Butter bought some butter, but she said the butter's bitter. If I put it in my butter, it will make my butter bitter. But a bit of better butter will make my butter better, so it was better Betty Butter bought a bit of better butter.
Oh my gosh, that
well
was
done.
really
I think that
Yes,
needs an applause.
and actually, Marius, this one makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I need to memorize that one.
Kind of.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
For many reasons.
Okay. Okay, but the real one, if you can pass them these two,
Of course.
But come on,
Today.
Marius, you
Wow.
had time to practice.
God.
You're just giving us these and we didn't have time to practice.
this is the classical one, the most classical one. Did you ever practice that,
Yeah.
Umberto?
Yeah, I remember this one. This
You
is the only
remember.
one that I remember, actually, but I don't think I ever was able to master it either.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna
sweating
give
already.
you time, so you start, and we can start with Umberto.
Yeah, sure.
Marcela?
Okay.
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I'll say time, you start with this Peter Piper. 1, 2, 3, time.
Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, a peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked?
Oh,
that was
nice.
good.
Wow.
That's 9 seconds 63.
I don't want to do this.
This is
I think I pronounced every one of them.
9:63. Yeah.
Yeah.
You did.
You did
Well,
great, actually.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I remembered it a little bit.
Come on, you have it easier. You're from the
I know, I'm sorry.
States. I'm from Reus. We don't say these things in Reus.
Okay.
Oh gosh.
The force of Gaudy is with you.
Okay. So are you ready?
I guess.
Yes, you
3,
can, Priscilla.
2, 1.
Peter Pepper picked a peck of pickled peppers, a peck of pickled peppers. Peter picked a Colines. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked?
Whoa. That's great. That's 13 seconds and a holiness in the middle. So it's quite nice for
Thank you.
Because
Marcela, it's my competition.
if you're from
Wow,
Reus,
I
you've
don't know what
got
to say.
A carretera carregada de rocks.
Ah, carretera
Which is-
carregada de rocks.
That's
See?
the R1 from Reus.
He should say that one.
Afterwards. And Marcela, it's your turn. I'm sorry about it.
Okay.
3,
All right.
2, 1, let's go.
Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked?
Okay, that's 14 seconds, but it's the most elegant one.
Exactly. I was going to say
She
I
pronounced
understood
everything
everything.
right.
Well, I think Umberto won, no?
Well, he
Congratulations,
I had a little
Umberto.
bit of practice before.
Yeah. What about one in Catalan?
Oh, 16 jutges.
Setze jutges
Our 16
del
judges.
jutjat.
16 jutges d'un jutjat mengen fetge d'un penjat. Si els 16 jutges ja no mengen, el penjat despengen.
I think that's another
Different
language.
versions
I
about
don't
that.
believe it's Catalan.
Umberto,
Yes.
let's see. Can you repeat that?
Oh, yeah. Such judges. I don't know.
No, 16 jutges d'un jutjat mengen fetge d'un penjat.
Such judges menjants.
They are eating all the time. Judges are
Yes.
eating all the time. Surrealistic.
I don't know if these tongue twisters can help on our pronunciation, Marius, but they can certainly undermine sometimes our confidence in public speaking. Okay, and so let's continue with Umberto and his video about St. Valentine's Day. First of all, before going to the video, let me ask you if you celebrated St. Valentine's, because in America it's a big thing,
Yeah,
right?
it's a big thing in America. Here, I don't see it as being so big. I haven't celebrated it here, but I don't have a partner or a lover or anybody. Nobody wants me.
Oh, don't say
say
that.
So sad. But anyway, here they don't maybe celebrate it that much because we have San Jordi, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Which is
That's
the
true.
Catalan version of St. Valentine's.
Yeah. But I haven't. Do you celebrate?
St. Valentine's?
Yeah.
I don't celebrate St. Valentine's Day, but I do celebrate my birthday because it's the day after St. Valentine's Day. So today is my birthday, guys.
Wow.
And a lot of people.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Birthday.
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. But no, I celebrate St. George Day, which I think is a nicer day than St. Valentine's because there's books involved.
Yeah, I love getting books or giving books away. You guys may get a book from me this this year, this St. George's.
I'm gonna write it down so you don't forget.
No, I won't forget.
Okay, it's recorded.
So,
Okay, and talking of romance, first let's watch a language tip about dating.
Hi. On Valentine's Day, you might be lucky enough to be asked out on a date. Now, accepting this date is easy, but rejecting a date is a bit trickier. You want to be careful with your words so as not to offend someone or hurt someone's feelings. So the best way to do it is in 2 steps. Step 1, thank the person. Oh, thank you. Oh, I appreciate it. Or even, I'm flattered. Step 2, say you're not interested. Thank you, but I'm not really interested. Or, oh, I'm flattered, but I'm just not into you that way. So, I hope this tip has been of interest to you though. Bye.
Big data is full of possibilities. Today, Joe Brew, big data scientist, epidemiologist, and economist will answer our questions on the Weekly Mac.
Okay, now it's time to watch Umberto's video from Sitges. Umberto, we can't wait. Why is Sitges so important to you?
well, besides the fact that it's gorgeous, it's beautiful, and I have friends there, I love how rich it is in its romantic history with Cuba, as well as its painters and other things. For example, did you know that King Edward IV killed his brother with something from Sitges?
What?
Or that Al Capone has to do something with Sitges. But we don't have time for that. I'll tell you next time.
Anyway,
But,
the people in the video, I don't think that you actually asked them anything about art, right?
I actually did in a way because art in my dictionary can be something about how you enamor somebody, how you seduce somebody. That's an art form, how you flirt. That's an art form. And Sitges is full of art with Santiago Brusignol, Ramon Casas, Lola Anglada, who is always forgotten in Sitges, but she was a big part of Sitges also. So, but we'll have to look and see.
Okay.
And see what happens.
Okay.
Sitges, the capital of modernism, but also romanticism. The things that happen in Sitges, ladies and gentlemen, stay in Sitges. And today, I have a box full of hearts to give away. So what do you think is romantic about Sitges?
The light.
The beach at night.
Things in Sitges were much wilder in the 80s than they are now.
Especially when we were young. We were very bad people.
In the summer only. If you see Sitges now, look, you look like Chernobyl.
You're going to help me out with my Valentine's. Since I don't have anyone, you're going to pick out one of those things and you're going to do what it tells you to do. To me.
I might decline, but I'll do my best.
Don't worry, I'm gay. I'm gay. You can take advantage of me. I'm straight.
Slap my butt.
Oh!
I will love you forever.
My God!
Feel my chest.
Yes, yes. Are you a romantic person?
No.
How do you feel about this? Is this your partner?
Yes, he is, and yes, he's not romantic.
You're gonna read?
Kiss me on the cheek.
Okay. So now you have to kiss me on the cheek. That cheek. Ooh.
Make it a good one, Robert.
Slap my butt.
Come on. Bring it on, Daddy.
Who loves you, baby?
Oh!
I've always believed in romance, since I was a little boy.
My heart used to buzz when I saw him.
And what did you do for your romantic partner here to ensnare her to be your partner? What did you do? Did you use your wiles?
I sent her an email.
Good Lord, child.
Right. Tell me dirty, kinky things. I have dirty, kinky boots on.
Oh my God. Kiss me on my bum cheek.
No, it doesn't. It says kiss me on the cheek.
Oh, sorry.
Can you say that again, please?
It says kiss me on the cheek.
Sorry, I thought it said kiss me on the bum cheek.
I think I'll take the first one. Give me a kiss. Show me your romantic move. Like, do you swear? Do you like snare like that and slowly, like in slow motion?
Like I do something with my face, like always like this, or like this, you know?
What's up, honey? Is that right? What's up, honey?
It looks like Orlando Bloom, you know? Like, what's up, honey?
I probably play with my hair a little, yeah. Maybe sit up a bit more. Yeah.
I see something else too.
Since I'm Latin, I will dance. I would take my clothes off and I would do it very slowly, being close but not touching.
I better get off her. You gotta read it first.
Fuck, Islamabad. Like this?
Ah!
Like this?
Oh, Danny. I am just a lonely person in Sitges, though without a lover.
I will love you forever.
I'm gonna have to give her a kiss on the cheek. I knew I would find romanticism in Sitges, y'all, but never did I think I would have so many hands on me. Oh! Oh!
Like this?
Oh! Would you like to join me? Okay. I may need a little bit of a boob lift after that, seeing that video too.
I really like how you created an introduction, a cultural introduction to the video, and then nothing about Rossignol or
Oh, no, I have to tell you, I did ask them about
Because it was Ana
Rossignol.
Priscilla, it was the art of seducing.
Yeah.
True, but it was incredible to me how the whole town knows what went on or thinks about what went on between Rossignol, Ramon Casas, and an American that came to visit and caused a little bit of a problem there. The whole town is in on it. Yeah. But now, what do you guys do to seduce or enamor your loved ones?
I just talk.
You just talk.
Tongue twisters.
Tongue twisters. You have them do tongue twisters.
Play all the time.
But just a tongue twister. But do you say, oh, do you want to do this tongue twister? And then that brings about more.
You want to twist your tongue with my tongue, for instance, something like that would be.
What about you, Ana Priscilla?
I talk, and usually too much, and the result is not good.
And you, Marcela, don't get away from this one.
I don't have a special, strategy.
Technique.
Exactly, for seduction, but I ask questions.
Oh, that's a good one.
And my question for you is,
Yeah?
what has been the craziest thing you've done for love?
For love? Shoot. I mean, I don't remember.
Come on, I'm sure you have done a lot of crazy things.
Yes.
Okay, but
He's trying to choose one.
yeah, I can't remember. But I can tell you one thing that I do when I fell in love is that I actually went to brush my teeth, and I
Where
put
do you
the
have your teeth?
toothpaste
Okay.
with in the toothbrush, and I was so in love that I started brushing my hair with the toothpaste, and that was one of the craziest things I remember. When
That's
I was
nice.
in love, I was so in love that I
You mean
actually
you were
did
like
that.
absent-minded, or?
I was absent-minded, yes. I actually,
Wow.
and this was when I was young. I mean, imagine now.
Okay,
So,
your video brought us to the end of Words and Facts, right? But we are not leaving before Marius gives us the clue for the guess word.
Yeah, and let's give the solution for the last guess word. There was a talkative bank clerk, 6 letters. I think
That
any
one
idea
knows?
about
I
that?
know it, but I want to see if they
It's
have
American
it.
English.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I
it's
know it
American
too.
English.
So Ana
So
Priscilla.
I'm the only one who doesn't know the
Because you're
answer.
European from Reus.
It's teller.
Yeah,
A teller.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, and maybe Umberto can tell us also the difference between teller and cashier.
The cashier is the one that actually hands you the money or gives you exchanges money, whereas the teller is the one that actually can answer questions, but she can also be a cashier. So she can answer questions, but she...
So he tells things as well. That was the origin. But in fact, if you go to Great Britain, the usual word is cashier. And in America it's teller. But here the word game was that you are telling things. So you are talkative because you are a storyteller, for instance.
But we don't use the word cashier in a bank for a teller. We only use teller.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
we
it.
don't use the word. So in England,
They use cashier. Yeah, that's it. Well, the next one is,
Yes.
I think, more difficult. So it's only 4 letters, but A sleeveless garment for American winners. 4 letters.
What?
A sleeveless garment for American winners. 4 letters.
Okay.
So that's a sleeveless garment for American winners, 4 letters. If you've been following our show, particularly our Guess What quiz, you can find this one easily, I'm sure. So you can share the guess word and post your solution on our profile on Twitter, Facebook or Instagram. Well, now it's time to say goodbye. Marius, Umberto, and Ana Priscilla. Until next time.
Until next time.
Okay, and we'll take a short break, but we'll be right back to discuss and look into one of the IT concepts that are coming up more and more frequently, and that is big data. What is it for? Or maybe we should say what it is not for. In a moment, we'll discover all about it here at the Weekly Mag. Well, as today's guest says, we are going through a revolution. Big data is here to stay and it will change every aspect of our lives. We already talked about big data in our show, but today we want to get deeper into it and see how we get the most of it and also how we can avoid its dangers. But before that, please pay attention to the glossary so that you can follow the interview more easily.
Big data has had an unforeseen growth over the last decade, and that's the first word of the glossary. If something that has happened was unforeseen, it was not expected to happen or known about beforehand. Related to data, we find the verb to monitor. When you monitor something, you regularly check its development or progress closely. You keep track of it and sometimes comment on it. And now let's have a look to a funny verb, to piggyback. It means to exploit an existing resource, system or product. So if you piggyback on something that someone else has thought of or done, you use it to your advantage. And let's finish this glossary with an adjective, painstaking. A painstaking search, examination or investigation is done with a lot of care, effort and attention to detail.
Born in Florida, he lives with his family in Santa Coloma de Queralt in the Conca de Barberà. And from this small town, this data scientist, epidemiologist and economist travels around the world to help organizations and individuals to explore, understand and use information thanks to his own business. And his name is Joe Brew. Joe, welcome to the Weekly Mag.
Thanks, Marcela.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
Likewise.
Okay, so first of all, let's focus on the term itself. Big data. Can you remind us in a few words what is it and why is it so important?
Yeah, nobody really agrees what it is. There's a technical definition, which is a data set larger than a certain number of terabytes, right? But I think the more commonly used definition in pop culture is, of course, the concept, right? The fact that we are generating and storing and analyzing amounts of data that are unforeseen in history. And it's so important because it's going to change basically every facet of our professional lives, of our personal lives, of the societies we build.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You said that we are going through a genuine, authentic revolution, which will change all aspects of life, like on personal level, social level, political. So why is that and how?
Yeah, I mean, I think intuitively we all know this already, right? So if you took a time traveler from not very long ago, let's just say 2005, and popped them on the metro of Barcelona today, they would be shocked to see 95% of people looking at a device which would be unfamiliar to them, right?
Exactly.
So things are changing extremely rapidly. The amount of time we spend with applications, digital applications which are informed by the data we're generating, is increasing every single year. So instead of spending 24 hours a day with other humans, we're spending fewer and fewer times interacting with each other and more times interacting digitally. Mm-hmm. Also just the sheer magnitude of the data we're generating. You know, there's more data generated every single day than there is the entirety of data generated up to the year 2000. Mm-hmm. So every single day we are generating more terabytes of data than all of the data that existed on Earth just 20 years ago. So what we're going to do with that data is going to change our political futures, it's going to change our scientific possibilities, it's changing everything. I don't know exactly how, but the reality is it is and it will change just about everything.
Mm-hmm. And you call yourself a data scientist. This is a job that didn't exist only a few years ago. You are specialized in the field of economy, medicine, and politics as well. So why did you choose these fields? What do they have in common when it comes to data?
Yes, I would say economics and epidemiology are both very data-hungry fields. That is what economists and epidemiologists need in order to arrive at conclusions, to make scientific inference. They need data. And the fact that there's so much data nowadays has been a boon for these academic corners, right? The term data scientist emerged not because there's a specific identity or role that is data scientist, emerged basically because we didn't have a term to describe people who are combining traditional statistics with big data sets, with new and innovative algorithms. And so it's really a term that describes almost too much, right? There's a field of data science which has a lot of little jobs in it. And we haven't invented a vocabulary yet for those jobs. And so we just call anybody that's working with big data or anybody that's working with new novel algorithms, machine learning, artificial intelligence, we just kind of clump them all together as a data scientist. So I use the term only because other people use the term, but I don't feel particularly comfortable with it, you know?
You defined data into, you say there's two kinds, active and passive. Let's see, let's describe them a little bit, and also let's talk about residual data. So what's active data, what's passive data?
So in science, traditionally, data collection was active. You would go out and you would observe and you would write things down, or you would administer a survey and say, you know, collect your data, put it into a database, analyze it.
Yeah, that's the traditional way.
That's the traditional way science is done. And in fact, unfortunately, that's the way most science is still done. But it ignores the fact that 99.9% of the data that's being generated is being generated passively. That is, on my walk here, I was pinging, without even thinking about it or knowing it, I was pinging a satellite floating up in above the atmosphere, and it was sending back my GPS location, my longitude and latitude, which then gets sent to a server and stored in a server in another country. And so that's happening every second, right?
That's right, with all of us.
Exactly, and so the reason big data as a concept exists is because of this huge production of passive data, right? By kind of your data trail or your data exhaust or data footprint, that's what I'm referring to, is not so much, oh, I filled out a survey because the government asked me where I live, but more the fact that every second, every facet of daily life, whether it's visiting an ATM or hopping on a flight or getting on the metro or just using your phone, is generating a lot of data that's getting stored and in many cases used by companies.
Like you said before, the electronic devices, we use them more and more, especially our smartphones. Are people aware of giving away all this personal data, and to what extent it is a danger for us?
Yeah, so
how can we control that?
Absolutely not. I am not aware of all of the agreements I have authorized on my phone. I don't think any of us are, right? To download any simple phone application, whether it's WhatsApp or Gmail or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, I'm
just reading an article on the internet. Right?
Exactly. You have to agree to a series of terms and conditions that are written in a way and in a length. Nobody.
Who has time to read all those terms and agreements?
Exactly. So we've built a legal framework for lawyers, and then we've applied it to the rest of humanity. And we are pretending as if we all agreed to this. So first of all, we didn't actually agree to it, effectively. Secondly, even to the extent that those agreements were followed, the secondary uses of data are often very unclear. So maybe the European Union comes up with certain regulations, but you have servers in India that are being worked on by Chinese engineers and American competitors. So exactly where data is and who has rights to it and how it's used is a gray area that we as a society haven't really figured out how to address. Does this present dangers? Yes. It's also great opportunities, right? All this data can help us cure diseases, it can help us catch criminals, but it's also created the surveillance data.
And social media, why is it so important? I know you pay a lot of attention to it. You analyze tweets, you analyze profiles like, I don't know, Donald Trump's Twitter and all that to produce, you have an opinion about somebody looking at their Twitter accounts and social media in general. So why is social media so important when it comes to data, analyzing data?
So social media, I think, is important because it's at that crossroads of big data and then what humans naturally want to do. We want to interact with each other, right? So this is why technology was so uninteresting until social media came around, right? Up until 2000, what was computers? It was spreadsheets and folders and files and emails. And then some people had this genius idea of what if we created technology that allowed humans, we're primates, right, to do what primates like to do, which is hang out with each other. So that's why it's so fascinating. And what it means is that almost all of us are in social media in one form or another. Politics has now kind of moved to social media, right? Instead of discussing at the local bar, hey, what do you think about what this person did or what this law says? Now we tweet about it and we Facebook about it. What's very useful about that from an analytical perspective is the fact that unlike the conversation at the bar, the social media data residuals, the exhaust is permanent. So you can see a conversation, you can see what your politician said 5 years ago about this controversial law. You can see exactly what Donald Trump's stance was on immigration before he became the Republican front runner. So it leaves a paper trail that to us analysts is really fascinating because you can identify certain trends, you can identify contradictions, you can run sort of meta-analyses on it.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about yourself before we move on to the second part of this interview. When did your passion for data start, Joe?
Yeah, I don't know if it was a passion at first as much as it was
interest.
It wasn't even an interest, it was an obligation. So I was trying to do epidemiology. I was trying to work in the field of public health and work in contexts in which I needed data to improve services and to improve studies. And so it came more out of necessity. That is, I needed to understand the massive amounts of data that were at my disposal, and then I started figuring out those tools to understand them. Unfortunately, my university education didn't prepare me for this at all, and I don't think anybody's university education is preparing them for the world of big data. With time, as is often the case, the more you get to know something, the more you like it. So I developed a passion, but it didn't start as a passion.
Okay, and you're from Florida. You moved to Catalonia. So tell me why did you choose Catalonia in the first place, and what's your how do you manage to do all these things that you do from being based in Catalonia, but at the same time traveling a lot around the world to develop all your projects?
Yeah, so I found Catalonia through my wife, who's a Catalan, and she brought me to rural Catalonia, which I fell in love with immediately. I come from Florida, which is beautiful, and I also love.
Do you come from a big place in Florida?
I come from a relatively large city, right? A city that's the size of, maybe a little larger than Igualada or something like this. But in my country, in the United States, we have a pretty high degree of homogeneity in terms of, let's say, food or language. You can go 500 miles north and you have people speaking with the same accent. Whereas when I go from Santa Coloma de Queralt to Montblanc, people speak differently and they actually use a different set of vocabulary. And this to me fascinated me as an American. We live in a day and age where it's very easy to work remotely. So I'm working on projects all outside of Catalonia, for example. My projects are usually in the developing world, and every single day I'm on calls and video conferences and interactively collaborating with colleagues. And I travel a lot, but I try to travel less and less. And fortunately, thanks to new technologies, I'm able to stay put more and more.
That's so interesting. Well, one of the main areas of expertise of our guest is epidemiology, and we will discover some of his amazing projects in developing countries, but that will be after the second language tip about dating.
So you have an English-speaking date and you want to invite the person to your home. You might find the adverb over really useful. You can say, would you like to come over to my house and chill? Sometimes you don't even have to say house. If you say, hey, do you want to come over and Netflix and chill? They know what you're talking about. So don't use over lightly, my friends. Until next time.
We are being blown away by big data's huge diversity of applications, and epidemiology is just one of them. And to look a bit deeper into it, we have invited our collaborator and expert in science, Olga Vallejo. Welcome, Olga.
Hi, thank you.
Hello.
Hi, Joe.
Hey.
I want to talk about epidemiology. It's not an easy word, epidemiology. Let's see what happens.
Epidemiology.
This all scientific discipline studies the distribution of diseases and health problems and the reasons why they appear. Here, data is really useful to study the frequency and the distribution of these health problems, to know how many people are affected or what are their characteristics. The purpose of epidemiology is to improve the health of people. And all this information provided by epidemiology can help and helps to formulate policies and interventions to monitor, prevent, protect, and promote health.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good definition. Do you agree, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, that's a good start. Then, Joe, you work with big data. You analyze epidemiological data related to malaria and tuberculosis in Mozambique. You said something before, and Nepal. Tuberculosis is the leading cause of death from infectious disease, and about half of the world's population is at risk of malaria.
That's a lot.
Yes, you have work for time. That's a good choice. What makes you choose this field research, this combination of big data and epidemiology?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's not so much, I chose epidemiology. I chose that actively because it seems like one of those areas where the potential for improvement is so great, right? And the potential for impact is so direct relative to some other fields. In terms of the big data piece, the way we do epidemiology now in the year 2020 is almost identical to how we were doing it in the year 1980. So meanwhile, in order to do things, for example, like sell you more advertisements or improve their click-through rates, internet companies are using all sorts of really advanced machine learning algorithms. Meanwhile, to treat the really important problems, not click-through rates, but children dying from diarrhea or malaria, tuberculosis, we're still using really antiquated methods. So I came across this kind of contradiction. Why are we using the really good stuff to solve unimportant problems and the really old stuff to solve really important problems? And that's where it seemed to me that of course we need to be using kind of, new technology to address these problems.
Well, the majority of deaths from malaria are concentrated in sub-Saharan Africa. According to 2016 data, in Africa there are 3 times more mobiles than drinking water taps. In 4 years it has not improved.
That's incredible.
It's terrible. Because they have serious problems with the lack of water, but on the other hand, they have a mobile, and it's really useful because this kind of big brother can know almost everything about us. Something before the GPS location, all this. What information could be helpful for your malaria studies?
Yeah, so I would point out that there's two-way flow of information, right? So a lot of people mention those numbers, right? That they have so much more cell phones than drinking water, and they see that as a huge problem, a huge failure. Another way of thinking about it is this is a huge opportunity, right? The people that were formerly inaccessible are now accessible. We can reach them, right? And in fact, companies who are trying to make money, not necessarily save lives, have figured it out. So we can piggyback on the work done by those companies and maybe save some lives while we're at it, right? So one is there's a flow of information towards people. When there's an outbreak of Ebola or there is an epidemic of malaria due to meteorological conditions, we should be able to use this accessibility to help inform people, right? The other is getting information. The way we decide which projects to do, where to invest money, which methods work and which don't, is generally through the painstaking process of active data collection. We go to these sites and we say, how old are you? Are you pregnant? Have you had a fever in the last 15 days? There's no reason we can't use more passive data collection to do these kinds of studies. When somebody goes on their phone and looks up, for example, on Google, fever symptoms, that should be an indication to public health authorities that are doing surveillance epidemiology that perhaps there's a fever here. And you don't have to be right about that person, You don't have to pinpoint. What you have to do is combine that with hundreds of thousands of other data points, and you can see trends, and you can see, in this district, there's been an increase of 400% in searches related to fever symptoms. We can do that. The technology exists. It's just political, willpower, and us as a society deciding that, we want to use this technology to do good stuff and not just maximize click-through rates on web pages.
Joe, can you give us an example of how you work with data, where you take it from, and how you interpret it and apply it on just a practical case? Or
Sure, yeah. I mean, with malaria, for example, one of the big determinants of malaria is weather conditions. So it's a very hard disease to predict because the weather is very hard to predict, right? I mean, we all know this from our experience. They say it's going to rain tomorrow, and then you go out and it's sunny. So when you're trying to say how many clinics do we need up and running for this rainy season, it's hard to say because we don't know what the rainy season is going to be like. But our weather algorithms are getting better. Weather algorithms are now generally open, so we can start to predict weather, and we can start to inform, let's say, public health authorities about how they should allot their resources. Also, we used to have a top-down approach to a lot of public health. The Ministry of Health tells the provinces, who tells the regions and the districts, every health center gets 2 people, right? Now that we have a lot more data on who lives in a certain area, on the weather in a certain area, on the disease trends previously in a certain area, we can start to allot and assign those resources as a function of the actual needs in a less hierarchical way.
Well, you also work with tuberculosis. Last year you spent several months in Nepal as a project manager to improve the diagnosis of tuberculosis that until then was complex. But thanks to this new technology, the process of the diagnosis can be accelerated. Explain to us, how does it work?
Yeah, so tuberculosis is a very tricky disease to diagnose. You need medical experts to do it, right? You need x-rays, you need to look at their symptoms. But there's a new technology where you can just get a little sputum, which is a little bit of spit, and run it through a DNA analyzer and see if the tuberculosis bacterium is in their sputum, right? So rather than asking a sick person in Nepal, for example, to hike over mountains for several days, leave their animals and their family and go get diagnosed, we can instead just get their sputum, right? The problem is, how do we transport sputum in a place like Nepal? How do we get it from this side of the mountains to the other side of the mountains? It's not easy, and it's very slow, but there are new technologies that are relatively cheap. One of them is drones. Drones are very good at carrying lightweight things over vertical distances, right? So what we've done in Nepal is empowered the healthcare workers to go out to find suspect tuberculosis patients, that's people who might have tuberculosis given their symptomology, to get a little bit of sputum, which weighs just a few grams, and then to call a drone on their phone. And we send a drone. It's autonomously flying based on the data we've collected on, say, topography. It lands in an open space, they load it up, and within hours we can have a diagnosis. Whereas the old way of doing this, it would have taken days, and in reality that person probably never would have even got diagnosed because it would have been too costly to go to a health facility.
Then let's say the drone arrives and the result confirms that the person is infected. What happens then?
So this is another opportunity for data, right? Previously, we would have said, hey, you need to move to this place where there's a DOT center, a direct observed treatment facility, so we can watch you take tuberculosis drugs for 6 months. This is obviously an unrealistic ask for people living with tuberculosis, right? So now we can initiate treatment at home, but we need to monitor it. It's very important in tuberculosis to monitor that they are actually taking their medication, because otherwise you might develop antibiotic resistance. We have technologies, smart pillboxes that monitor when you open the pillbox, when you close that pillbox. You can send that data via cell signal to a database, and then you can have a caseworker who is monitoring many patients in many different places remotely and seeing, oh, it looks like the grandma living here might have forgotten to take her pill today. And she can call or she can go visit and assign those resources. Don't spend time trying to find people or to help people who don't need help, and instead identify those people who really need help taking their medication and spend your time and resources there.
Big data is really powerful.
Absolutely.
We can see, and the companies know that. The data managed by enterprises per year increased by 569% between 2016 and 2018. I guess the key is to know how to harness the power of data, when and how you know that you have well decided what data you need to collect and how you have to clean, manage, analyze, or communicate it.
Yeah, that's a good question. And if I knew the answer to that question, I would be a billionaire, right? But the point is, we do know as a society that we need to collect, we need to capture data on those important problems, on those things that matter to us, right? What matters to us most? Basically, health, right? That's the thing that when you think of how are you today, if your friends and family are healthy, life is good. If you've got a sick kid, it doesn't matter how good your job is. It's a bad day, right? Unfortunately, in the fields related to health, medicine, public health, epidemiology, we are behind. We're not collecting that data, right? We're not tapping into those passive data streams of the huge terabytes of data, and instead we're over here collecting our kilobytes, often on paper forms, and then using an antiquated process to analyze that data and to publish that data, and then disseminate it back to the public, which oftentimes paid for that study, by the way, years later in the form of a journal, which the public doesn't even have access to. So I'm less concerned about, which data should we be analyzing? That's the question for experts smarter than me, and more concerned about making sure that the smart people that are trying to do good things for society have access to the right data.
Before we conclude the interview, Joe, like Olga said before, the presence of big data in companies is growing at a huge rate. When and where do you think we're going to see the next revolution of big data?
Yeah, I think it's going to be constant. I don't think there's going to be a moment. I mean, I think some of the big ones coming up, which are inevitable, facial recognition is a really big one. So facial recognition technology is going to be present in our lives soon. Maybe it'll be to get in the metro, maybe it'll be to open your door, right? Another one is self-driving cars. This is an inevitable technology that in a few years, the drivers, this might affect you personally if you're driving around, but it's also going to have a huge effect on industry, on the shipping and logistics, transportation industries. Health is a huge one. Personalized healthcare is coming soon, right? Instead of saying this is the dosage for a headache, they're going to say this is the dosage for Marcela for a headache, given all of these other things that algorithms know about you. So all of these things are coming very, very soon.
There are a lot of positive things, I'm sure we all agree with that, but also some dangers, no? And sometimes also the lack of privacy. So how can we deal with all that?
Yeah, I'm a techno-optimist. I think we can do really good things with data, but I think the only way we can do the really good things with data is if we make sure we don't do the really bad things with data. And so far, we have not been making good decisions, right? So right now, we have been generating huge amounts of data. Those data go to private companies that are doing who knows what with that data.
Yeah.
And then later, we have these conversations at the societal level about, hey, what should we say these companies can and can't do, right? Anything that's available to a good democratic government is also going to be made available to authoritarian regimes. So facial recognition technology, for example, can catch a really bad criminal, right? We can find them automatically. It can also catch a political dissident, right? A person fleeing a protest in, let's say, a repressive regime. And so we need to decide as a society, I don't have the answers to what those decisions should be, but it should be a democratic process by which we decide how technologies can be used and to which ends. And it doesn't seem like anywhere in the world, the European Union, the United States, or anywhere else, we've really had that conversation as a society.
Okay. Well, we would go on and on about big data, but I'm afraid the time for the interview is running out. Anyway, it's time for the question chain. Joe doesn't know what it is, but it was a surprise. Anyway, it's a question for you. Okay, from our last week's guest, and in this case it was the American writer Peter Kaldheim. Let's have a look.
Hello, my name is Peter Kaldheim, and I'd like to know if you've gotten around to reading the new novel by Irish novelist Kevin Barry, which is set in Spain in the ferry port of Algeciras. It's called Night Boat to Tangier, and if you haven't read it yet, why haven't you?
This is a question for me to answer?
Yeah, that's right.
I have not read Night Boat to Tangier, and I'm a little ashamed to be admitting that. However, one of my New Year's resolutions is to read more fiction, because I generally only read nonfiction, and I think it's making me into a boring person. So I'm glad to take that question and convert it into a recommendation, and I will go out when this interview's done and get night boat to Tangier.
That's fair enough. That was a good answer anyway. No? Do you
Yes,
agree,
really
Olga?
good. I haven't read yet. Yes.
Okay. Well, anyway, Joe Brew, data scientist, epidemiologist, and economist. Thank you so much for coming here,
My pleasure.
Weekly
It was a lot
Mag,
of
and
fun.
talking to us today. And all the success in all your projects.
Thank you.
Olga, until next time, thank you so
Thank you.
much. Okay, and we've still got more stories, but that will be right after a short break.
Give me some time to wonder what's going on.
Piano, jazz, and a young Catalan musician. In a few minutes, Mar Vilaseca presents her new album, Find the Way. Don't miss it!
I still need your love.
Welcome back. Emilia Johansson from Portland in the USA is a dedicated craftswoman and ceramic artist who settled in Barcelona 15 years ago, and today she works in a shared ceramic studio in the Poplanoa district where she makes hand-built and wheel-thrown pottery, sculpture and also jewelry, and this is her portrait.
Hello, my name is Emilia Johansson. I'm from Portland, Oregon. I've always been creative. I'm a ceramics artist. Initially, I started with ceramics when my mom was in law school, and she was really busy. And I think she probably felt bad for me playing with my Barbies in between the bookshelves in the law library, and she signed me up for a pottery class. And looking back on that now, I think it was probably the best gift that anybody's ever given to me. From about the time I was 8 until I was 18, I would go to a local community art center in Portland and play with clay. And there was a teacher there who was very kind and very helpful, so I got to start playing with clay on a very natural environment of just exploring and having fun. And then as life takes you on its own course, as it does, I went to university and was doing everything that I could to try to find out what my professional path would be. And people asked me when I was young, why don't you do ceramics? You're so good at it, I love your work. And it just never occurred to me. I never even thought of it as an option, as I can make a living at this. There was about 10 years where I didn't play with clay. When I first arrived, it was a question of getting any job that I could. I didn't really get back into ceramics until my mom passed away quite young. I mean, I was in my 20s and she was in her 50s. And that had a huge impact on my life. I really struggled with that for a while. And after she passed, I got back into ceramics. I found a community studio and signed up right away. In the first studio where I worked, I met the owners of this studio. The 137 Degrees Ceramic Art Studio is a co-working space. I think there's maybe 10 artists, kind of full-time artists that are here now, and then there's people who come and go. There's some people who work ceramics as a hobby, others it's a profession. So we also give classes and workshops throughout the year and have all kinds of expositions and activities. It's basically starting your own business to become an artist and to try to sell your own work, and there's so much that goes into it. In the first couple of years, I'm often working 6 or 7 days a week, and never do I feel tired or any loss of enthusiasm for what I do. It can be a bit overwhelming, or I still might have doubts sometimes, or think to myself, what am I doing? I can't do this. Certainly those thoughts may come into my mind, but never once have I considered turning back or going back to sitting behind a computer all day. There's no way I could do that now. I've never struggled to be inspired for ideas. I have not enough hours in the day to do all the things that I want to do, Ever since I started, I really enjoyed exploring different ways of working with clay and different clays themselves. I used to love, when I was a little kid, making masks and faces and sculptures to decorate with, but I also love to make functional pots, and there's no better feeling than needing something from your home, a planter or a butter dish or a bowl, and coming into the studio and making your own. And you know that nobody has one like yours, and you can make it the exact color you want, the exact style. So functional pots bring me great joy on the day-to-day basis, but it's not fulfilling enough for me to just do functional pottery on the wheel. I need to explore my limits with clay and explore my own creativity. So that's why I do the artistic work as well. I think ceramics is more challenging than any other sort of art form or activity that I've ever participated in. I mean, if you're working with metal or wood, you keep working that piece until it's finished and you're happy with it. But with clay, you can work with a piece and be happy with it and stick it in the oven or in the kiln, and it's not up to you how it turns out. There is no perfecting it. There is a level of chance and luck and the kiln gods, you know, that take care of the rest. And certainly I've been doing this my whole life, and every single time I come to open a kiln, it feels like Christmas morning. You never get tired of it.
This young composer, singer and pianist has surely earned her place in the Catalan jazz landscape. Aged only 22, she already has her own quintet, and she has played many times in New York, Portugal or Italy, and even in China. She's presenting her first solo album, Find the Way, next June. Mar Vilaseca, welcome. It's
Hello.
a pleasure to have you here. You do a lot of things, play with your own band, you also play in another band with your father, you're studying, you are teaching music, and you are only 22. So how do you manage to do all those things all together?
Well, sometimes can be difficult, but always music is present. So I spend the most of my time in the day. You know, one thing can work for both projects or school. I usually sing the same tunes on school and my gigs. Like, it's good to always be working in the same field, so I do as much as I can.
And you started very young, actually you started at 6, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, well, I started playing at home. My dad is a jazz pianist, so maybe I was 2 or 3 when I started playing the piano, but I started with formal lessons when I was 6 at school, in a music school.
Okay, so I guess that the fact that your dad is a pianist helped, right?
Yes, very much.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about your album called Find the Way. It will be released next June. We've got here a copy.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about it.
Okay, so this album wasn't really a project I had in my mind, or I thought a lot about it, but I had a really important gig in Barcelona, in the Jazz Festival of Barcelona, with my band, and also with the collaboration of a jazz pianist from New York, Tabor Gable. And we had the repertoire, we had some rehearsals before the show, and I thought, why couldn't we record an album of this? Because it's ready, so I found a studio, my favorite studio in Barcelona, called Oído. And I talked to the engineers, and I was very lucky that they had a day free for us, so we recorded there, and I'm very happy about it.
I think we can listen to your first single called Cry.
Sure.
Cry, even if I'm around. Don't contain all the pain, let the feelings away. But cry if your soul is alone. Unfortunately weak, it's so easy to see. Yes, it is lonely, sad and hazy.
Sounds beautiful. Is this your favorite song on this album?
Yes, this is one of my favorite songs, and also is the last one I wrote. So I really wanted to show myself right now. And yeah, it's the most fresh, the most natural song of all of them.
Okay, let's have a look. This is the album. We've got it here. Okay, Find the Way by Mar Vilaseca. You must be proud.
Yes, very.
In terms of style, would you say you're a jazz musician, or you also like to combine it with other styles?
I have a lot of influences. My dad used to show me a lot of different music in the course of my life. So I started listening to a lot of pop rock from the 70s.
Okay.
And after that I got into soul, funk and R&B music, African American style. And
you travel a lot. I guess that's very important for your career. Actually, this last summer you spent almost the whole summer in the United States.
Yes.
New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles. How important is that for you, for yourself as an artist?
I'm very ambitious, and I see in there something that I cannot have here. There's a great scene in Barcelona, jazzy scene, very great musicians. But when you first go there, I went to New York when I was 18, I think, by myself, and I saw the real thing. You get shocked because there's a lot of musicians, a lot of fusion, a lot of different styles, and it's beautiful. And I fell in love the first time, so I kept going and going. I think I've been already 5 times in the US, and now I'm trying to do my last step, moving there if I can for studies.
Okay.
And yeah.
Actually, you're going to graduate soon. You're going to finish your studies in Barcelona at the SMUC.
Right.
So I understand that your plans are to continue studying in the United States.
Yes.
Where would you like to go?
I'm applying into different schools, Juilliard and Manhattan School of Music in New York, but I also thought about the option of Chicago because I was there last summer and I also fell in love with the scene, with the people, and yeah, so the school's name is DePaul University.
You collaborated with accomplished artists from the jazz scene. Let's give our viewers some names. Just the pianist, for example, Tabor Gable, disciple of Wynton Marsalis. So, what's your attitude? I mean, what do you get from playing with such accomplished musicians? How do you feel about it?
Well, it's a challenge for me, but I feel honored to be there, and I'm always down to learn. I always listen to them. I always hear about their stories. I don't want to stop doing that because jazz musicians here can play very good, can listen to a lot of the music, but they don't really know how the scene is, how it can be to be a jazz musician there. It's super difficult, it's very hard. They have to play so much, to study so much, because there's a lot of competence in there. So you hear a lot of stories and how it really works, and that made me learn so much.
What's your favorite part of this career? Singing, performing, composing?
I would say writing, composing is the thing that I like the most. I spend hours a day, playing and finding harmonies and writing tunes, but I also love performing. Singing, scatting, I really like scatting, improvising with a voice, and playing, of course.
Okay, and what about your English? Your English is very good. When did you start learning it, and how often do you practice it?
I started at school, but I really learned how to speak and when I first started doing an exchange with a friend from England, I did it for school, and we became super good friends. So we started doing the exchange every summer, and after that I started traveling too, going to the US, and also I read in English, I watch movies.
That's very important.
Yeah, in English. So I keep improving.
And today you are going to play for us the song?
I Still Need Your Love. Yeah.
Okay, which is part of this
right,
album?
And comparing with Cry, this is the first tune I wrote in the album, and I thought it would be good to contrast both things.
What inspired you to write this song?
I was in love, and that can always inspire you, as good as bad, but yeah.
Is it a sad song? Is it a sad song or a happy song?
In between, you know, you get ups and downs in a relationship, and yeah. And also when you're in a distant relationship, that can be hard, so.
Okay, looking forward to listening to it. Thank you, Mar, so much for coming
You're
to the Weekly
welcome.
Mag. If you got a date for Valentine's Day, you may want to describe to your best friend how your crush looks like. And Helen Armstrong and Tim Wari from International House Barcelona are here to teach you a few interesting words to describe someone's appearance.
Hi, today we're going to teach you how to describe someone's appearance. So I've called a very handsome man to come and help me.
That'll be me.
Unfortunately, he couldn't make it, so I've asked him to come.
Typical.
I'm only joking. Wow, you look smart today.
Yes, today it's very important that I make a good impression. How do I look?
Very handsome and very good looking as always.
Oh, thank you very much. And you look beautiful and pretty.
Thank you.
So, in English, we tend to use the adjectives beautiful and pretty to describe women, and handsome and good looking to describe men.
Yeah, and we could also be described as attractive and cute because they can be used for both genders. Right, now let's have a look at body shapes. So we've got tall and short. We've also got the word chubby, which refers to someone who's fat, but calling someone fat is a bit rude. But chubby's normally for kids, isn't it?
And kind of affectionate.
Yeah, it's positive.
Okay, we also all know the word thin. We also have some synonyms for this word. So you could say someone is skinny. Now this one has a negative connotation. Maybe it means that somebody looks unhealthy. So they're so thin that they're unhealthy. If we want to be more positive, we can use the word slim or slender. This has a more positive connotation.
Yeah, and another word, particularly for men, is the word stocky. This refers to someone who's not too tall, quite broad and strong.
And then if we want to describe a woman, we could say they're curvy. So this means that they have wide hips, maybe a big bosom.
And then we've got the word petite, which is a bit of a false friend because it doesn't just mean small, it also describes someone who's very delicate and pretty.
But we could say that us two are two demigods of beauty and perfection. How's my hair today?
It's wonderful. So you could say it's uncombed or tousled if you don't comb it in the morning, but don't worry, Tim, yours looks very neat and tidy.
Good. And am I well dressed today?
You are well dressed, which means you're smart, neat and clean. You look very well groomed. Okay, and the opposite of that is shabby or scruffy, yeah, which means you don't really care what you look like. We also have a brilliant phrase in English, which means the same thing as scruffy, and that's to look like something the cat dragged in.
Yeah, speaking of that, you could have dressed up a bit for the occasion today.
Oh, thanks, Tim.
No doubt that reading is the best way to upgrade your vocabulary, and in this show we pride ourselves on encouraging it. You know, you can find English books in any library from the Xarxa de Bibliotecas Municipals of the Diputació de Barcelona, so pay attention to our librarian's book recommendations.
Uncle Tom's Cabin is one of these books that has the privilege of having changed history. There is this anecdote in which Abraham Lincoln runs into Harriet Beecher Stowe and says, "Oh, so you're the little woman who wrote this book and caused this great war," meaning the American Civil War. The idea is that the book was written to change the attitude of people towards slavery. The idea is that the servants and slaves had normal lives, but in the book they are presented as heroic. Read all about Uncle Tom's Cabin, an American classic. Come back to me and tell me all about it afterwards.
Lucia Berlin was an American author who wrote around 80 short stories. They were published back in the 90s, and afterwards, they were kind of forgotten. In 2015, a selection of her best short stories was published, and that's a manual for cleaning women. In this volume, we find stories that are real not ideal, they reflect real life and the struggles in the author's life. The characters there observe, enjoy, struggle, and they combine humor and melancholy. I recommend you very much to read these perfect pieces of reality by Lucia Berlin.
Give me some time to wonder what's going on. I've talked to you the whole night and I still need your love. I know you'll be forever here next to me, beating so fast, 'cause I will see you at last. I can find myself in trouble if I am near you, if you are near me. I really want your company. Can I already miss you? Give me some time to wonder what's going on. I've talked to you the whole night and I still need your love. Some time to wonder what's going on. And I've talked to you the whole night and I still need your love. I still need your love. I still need your love.
They say that life is stranger than fiction, but is it funnier? Stay tuned for Guess What with Sergi Cervera, a quizmaster stranger than life.
Welcome back. How does the human body work? What makes it think or breathe? Well, these and many more questions are answered when visiting the spectacular exhibition Human Bodies or Anatomy of Life. And we've been lucky enough to visit it with someone who knows it very well because he used to work there, the Italian David Maniscalco. Let's have a look at the Home from Home section.
Hi, this is the Human Body exhibition and my name is David Maniscalco. I think actually it's a very special exhibition because it's very useful, first of all, for all of us to understand how the human body works. And actually I think the target of this exhibition is just for a person of my age, which I'm 38 years old, but also for kids to understand how the human body works. The exhibition is divided in 7 rooms because you cannot understand all the things at the same time. So it's better they explain to you parts apart, let's say like the skeletal system, the muscle systems, how the blood goes through our body and how is it connected, let's say, to the muscle. My favorite one actually have been the muscles ones because I'm a very sportive guy, so I was very curious about that, how to know how it works, how the blood pumps into the muscle and this kind of stuff. Actually, when I came here, I thought that was like just explanation of how the human body works, but actually it was very useful once I came in to see that there is a lot of sections that are very useful because they are, let's say, they are all of the pieces they are put in different sections in different areas, so you can understand slowly, first the skeletal, then the muscles, for example, then other parts of the bones, and you can slowly understand how it works. And I didn't expect this when I was here, because I thought it was like just pieces, just something like panels or explanation very simple. But then when I came in, I found out it was like very specific with a lot of pieces and all of this section. And I think it's even very useful because it's giving you the audio guide you have with you once you go around and you see all of these pieces. Because sometimes even giving you like advice about healthy lifestyle or to understand how your body works and to know if it's better sometimes eat a lot or just eat slowly or, for example, bite slowly the food, these kind of things. Actually, I was thinking about myself because I don't bite that much, and then after that I thought like, yeah, maybe since from today it's better just start to thinking about it once I do it. I think at least during the exhibition and just listening to the audio guide, I've been thinking about this, about something that I don't do properly at least 3 or 4 times. What's important in life is discover all the time and learn something new. You don't need to read a book all the time to discover something, but sometimes it's better to discover like, let's say, touching or viewing with your eyes close to some kind of object. It is very useful because you can understand a lot of stuff, and at the same time you can discover things that you have been thinking that you've never been seeing in your life. It's like a metaphor. The human body it does have a substructure that it works like perfectly, where you can understand how it works, how the connections are made, and there is this kind of big structure and scheme behind the skin that we have.
Hope that you like what we prepared for you today. We have interviews, a musical performance, tips, but now it's time for us to play because it's time for, guess what? Our quiz with the amazing and sometimes even puzzling Sergi Cervera. Hello, Sergi.
Hi, Mars. Thanks for having me and thanks for the compliments. I am back with more questions and unexpected challenges. We have been through all kinds of topics, from Western to space to circus, ghosts, but we have never dedicated a quiz to real life until today. There is nothing more unbelievable than life, right?
Right. Well, and let's say also hello to our contestants. First of all, today's special guest, Kandarp Mehta.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Well, Kandarp is a PhD from YESE Business School, an expert in the process of creativity, an academician and also an actor. And he was the protagonist of our e-speakers video about India a while ago. So, Kandarp, where about in India are you from? Where do you come from?
I'm from Ahmedabad. It's from the region called Gujarat. It's the main city of region of Gujarat. Gujarat is a region which is better known for Mahatma Gandhi. It's the hometown of Gandhi. So
wow.
So you're a peaceful contestant.
I'm very peaceful. Yes.
No competition.
No,
Not like you. Well chosen. Well chosen.
Non-violent.
A non-violent contestant.
We'll see about that at the end of the program. You know,
also, he said non-violent, but not necessarily peaceful.
That's fair
He
enough.
can be really competitive. That's what you deserve, Mark.
Hopefully. And also, let's say hello to our long-suffering and patient contestants, Patricia Scalona
Hello.
and Mark Broderick.
The only suffering I have is the suffering of listening to Sergi every week. That's
Which is
it.
not a small thing, because I am just the quiz master, and you will struggle today.
I have a first question for you. And the question is, are you able to discern real life from fiction?
We know the answer, Mark.
She said hardly ever.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Then,
well, as they say, you know, life is stranger than fiction.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And again, we're not asking you because we already know
That's
the answer.
fair. My whole life is a video game, basically, so it's not really real.
Well, I hope the three of you are. I really do. Because here comes the challenge that tests your insight to tell real life from fiction. The multiple choice challenge. We've got real people and real stories. You just have to guess the real answers. So, watch the first video.
When I was really young, I was in the underground, and three guys came to me and they asked for my money. I told them I have no money, I have no money, I have no money. They became a little bit violent. I told them I swear to my mother I have no money.
A young victim, some vicious criminal, situations turning nasty. What happened next? I'm gonna give you three options and you will have to guess which one is the real one. Option A, they believed him and they became friends. Option B, the police came and arrested the boys. And option C, the underground train stopped and he ran away.
I think option C.
Option C is the real one.
Because his face was like getting like lighter and lighter. So I think the end was kind of happy. And yes, he would. I think he would claim credit
I'm gonna follow your cue and I'm gonna say A though, because
they became friends.
They became friends.
They became friends. So I love. It's great to have you here because my favorite part of the show is when you guys use your logics to guess what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And all the logics that you bring me make sense.
But
some of you are gonna be right, and some of you hopefully are gonna be wrong.
He's got an unfair advantage. He teaches creativity.
That's correct.
I mean,
That's
he's
correct.
creative
That's
that
correct.
way.
We'll see about that. So you are following A, you're following C. How about you, my dear friend?
I was going to go with A because I think there's nothing cuter than swearing about your mother and then becoming friends with somebody. But I'm going to go with B because I think the police are always there to catch the criminals.
Yeah, well,
That's a joke. That's a joke. That's a joke.
I'm
That was a
excited
joke.
right now because I want to see how the mugging ended.
Let's find out.
And one of them said, no, if he has said that, for sure he has not money. And finally we became friends.
Oh, friendship is something that is always going to be there.
No, but so she has the unfair advantage. She's the writer. She knows human emotions. She can. She can.
I like this guy already.
Yeah.
He's the passive aggressiveness. I love it.
I love that you guys are doing the show by yourself today. Well, and she's the winner. I mean, she needs to be the unbeatable Patricia.
Yes, and 1 point for Patricia.
Thank you.
And okay, let's go for the second story, that of a girl from Northern Europe coming to Barcelona.
I'm from Tallinn, Estonia. I came to Barcelona to do some volunteer work. I was going to stay for a few months. I met a very nice guy, and
so, How long did she stay in Barcelona? I'm gonna give you 3 options. Option A, she had a stormy but short relationship and went back to Estonia after a week. B, the guy she met left her and she returned home after a year. And C, she stayed to live happily ever after in Catalonia.
That.
Yeah.
Period.
That's where it was recorded. I mean, it was recorded here in Barcelona.
How can you tell? It was a great wall. I mean,
I don't think you've sent people to actually record that in Estonia.
you would never believe where the stories have been recorded.
She could be back on holiday and they just happened, you know, she could be back to visit this, you know, reignite the old flames of love and give it a second go.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with option number 1, because I think you come back for a little bit more. You know, she had some Latin lovers
she needs
and she
a
came
sequel.
back for some more. So I'm going to go with option 1, a week.
The sequel.
Yeah, exactly. The hurricane whirlwind romance.
Hurricane.
Go on.
In fact, I'm thinking of a combination. So
fancy,
I
guys,
would go
fancy.
with stormy because that's the destiny of most relationships. But I would not say short, maybe long. Like I don't know. I would like to wish that
I said long one. I said the long
that means
relationship.
So he's hybriding. He's being creative here. This is his job. He's creating an option.
D option. We're going to see a D option.
If I go with, for example,
You can go with
the
my
same
option.
then do we share the point?
No, they give you
do
a
not.
whole one just for you.
Oh, exactly.
So
let's make up. Do I have permission to make up another answer? No, I think I do not.
Okay. So no, but just to maintain the spirit of competition, I would go with B.
B.
Yeah.
Alrighty, fancy. Okay, so let's see how long she was able to stand Catalans, right?
15 years, you would never believe it. And now, parlo català així de bé.
Patricia got the point and now she's dancing. So let's take a pause and let her do
I don't care about winning, but I care about crushing you.
I actually feel the same way.
I feel I'm being bullied, and I might have to write to. Yeah.
Okay, 2 points for Patricia. Okay, let's end with a third story about. Guess what? About
love.
The story I want to share with you is how I met my partner, because I find it quite unbelievable. I have never done anything like this before. The way we got together was something totally new for me, and my family wouldn't ever believe how we got together. And when I told them, they thought I was kidding, because it was so unbelievable.
Can you imagine in what extraordinary and amazing way she met her boyfriend? We will see the options right now. Option A, she met him in a taxi. He was the driver. B, he saved her from drowning in the sea. Ooh. And C, she met him on Tinder.
Ah, for fuck's sake. Sorry. I'm gonna go read a taxi. Why not? Come on. Yes.
Why not?
Taxi
right?
men are charming. They have lots of things to say, stories to tell.
And also, it's the less romantic.
It's the least romantic of the three of them.
Exactly.
Which is probably the obvious one that's wrong. But anyways.
But actually, I was thinking of going with that, but
now
go with it.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Our competition
Join
saying
me.
you have to move to another option, right?
Okay, I'll go with B. I like those
Drowning
stories.
in the sea.
Yes, she
Today
was
it feels like
drowning.
B. Your option is B. You're going after B all the time. Good. Let's bet on B right now, Patricia.
I'm gonna go with Tinder.
Tinder.
Like, the love of your life in Tinder. I mean, you can meet a lot of people on Tinder, but
The love of your life? Write it in.
Hardly.
Check it out.
We got together on Tinder.
On Tinder! We've got a winner again, the unbeatable Patricia Scalona,
Worst
ladies
answer
and gentlemen.
ever. Like, that's not so unbelievable. Come on.
Oh my God.
emphasizing it way too much. It was like, the most unbelievable place, incredible.
Got a 10-month relationship in Tinder. This is unbelievable, and you have to admit that.
Feckin' unbelievable.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I cannot say that I'm the fair cruise master.
Okay, and 3 points for Patricia.
Let's move on and take on our second challenge. The speed challenge? No, haha. I took you by surprise, didn't I? So as today we're focusing on real life, let's have a new round. It's called True or false. And guess what? We read a statement and you have to decide if the statement is right and true, or it's wrong or false. 2 points, each right answer. How do you feel about it?
Good.
Let's go for it, right?
Okay, the Great Wall of China is not visible from the moon.
False. False?
False.
False. True. That means point to Mark. 2 points to Mark, actually. If you paid attention to words and facts today, you should know it. It's not true.
It's not true, exactly.
Miley Cyrus was born as Miracle Cyrus.
True.
True?
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 False.
False. 2 points to Mark. That's correct. She
Oh,
was born as
I love
Destiny Hope
Yes.
Cyrus.
Billy Ray Cyrus's daughter.
That we knew.
Yeah, I know.
You know who her godmother
Come on,
is?
guys.
Okay, Falset.
Who's her
Falset
godmother?
is the main town in El Priorat.
True, true.
True?
True.
True. That's correct. 2 points for you
everyone.
guys, for all of you.
Shaving makes hair grow thicker.
False.
False. That is correct. It's false. When you cut your hair, it doesn't grow thicker. It seems so because it grows back with a blunt tip.
Pluto is the smallest planet of the solar system.
False.
False.
Patricia?
They're so sure. False.
False. That is kind of correct. That is false. Pluto is not considered a planet anymore. That changed kind of recently.
it's just
but
a
a
dog.
dwarf
You see her
planet.
tactic now? She's
But
just following what we do.
That's
she's
exactly.
she's like a passenger in this game.
It counts. It counts.
Well, if you could shut up for just a second before
Guys,
I give
let's
my
keep
answer.
the fight on the
Okay.
game, please.
Columbus is the capital of the US state of Ohio.
True.
Ohio is Cleveland. Ohio is Columbus. I'm confused.
3, 2,
True.
1. True.
False.
False. That is not correct. It's true. It is true. And I don't know what else to add to that.
And Sacramento is capital of
Let's go on.
California. I don't
Paris Hilton built a dog mansion in her backyard.
True. True.
I don't know. I've not been in touch for so
I don't know
long.
it's not true or false. So, make a statement. True,
No idea.
false, false, true,
I'm gonna
no
go
idea.
I'm gonna go with true. And also on a side note, have you seen Cooking with Paras? If you haven't, watch it. It's
I
the
haven't,
funniest thing
I
you'll ever
haven't.
see.
But I think I have this afternoon free today. All right, so
You go with
I have to go with. I don't
he's
know.
not answer.
True.
not
Okay,
answer.
True. I'll say
True,
true.
true,
Yeah.
sure. Let's go. It's true. Point to you guys again. She showed pictures of it on her Twitter account. A two-story home with balcony, heating, and air conditioning.
Yes, of course.
Okay, we continue. People in the Val d'Aran actually spoke Basque until the 10th century AD.
For God's sake.
Come on, guys.
I'm gonna go with false.
Yeah.
Yes.
I went there.
I'm just giving you 3
when
seconds
I went
to
there,
answer.
it was already 20th century, so.
That's more
No,
than 3.
21st,
That's
yeah.
definitely more than 3 seconds. False or true?
True.
False.
True. False. So false, and true, which means she got the points. True, Patricia got the points. Actually, the question was brought up last week by our collaborator Matthew Tree in Words and Facts. We check it out who watched the show now. Next.
Next is Lionel Messi is 1 meter and 60 centimeters tall.
True or false, guys?
False.
True.
True, false, and
False. I think he's 163.
he's 10.
157.
I'm gonna count your answer as false, which means points to you guys.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
false. He's 10 centimeters taller.
He's 170.
At least by the official record. So you two got the points. Patricia didn't.
Okay, and,
Never.
and the last
got
one,
it.
and the last one is Napoleon was once defeated by bunnies.
By
Bunnies. Like,
This is the second week in a row. We had raining bunnies last week, and that was not true.
Because
so
bunnies are
defeating
fine.
him. I'm going to go with yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
The night of the lepus, like
He was defeated
mutated
by
bunnies.
bunnies, so it's true for
Fuck it,
you.
Why not?
It's Napoleon Bonaparte. Or...
that is correct. Yeah, we're not talking about
bottle of
animal
brandy.
farms,
It's a bottle of
Napoleon.
cognac.
We're not talking about animal farms. So your statement is
I have no idea. I will go with true.
true.
Yeah,
And
it's-
Patricia, how
it's
do you feel
so-
about bunnies?
Yeah, because
And
it is-
Napoleon?
False.
False. Okay, which means you two got the points. That's
Yes!
absolutely
He got
true.
defeated by
As some
rabbits.
historians report in a bunny hunt, hundreds of rabbits were released at once, but instead of fleeing, they charged toward the emperor who had to escape in his carriage.
Awesome. That's
what
the
an
best
image,
story I've heard
right?
in the last 5 episodes.
So let's check the score, right?
Right.
We have a very interesting thing here.
It's very close. It's very close, actually, no?
Yeah, we're having Mark leading. Unbelievable, right? But true. With 16 points, but right after Patricia is with 15 points, but just behind her, Kandarp is with 14 points, which means that we have a lot to play.
That's right. And now we have one more round,
That's
right?
correct. We have the last round left. 3 points per answer.
But before that, it's time for a bit of comedy with the giggles. And today it's Hannah Becker's turn with a funny breakup story.
My last breakup was pretty intense. My ex said all of these things to me that were just horrible, mean, cruel, and completely accurate. He was like, "You're a selfish jerk." And I was like, "I know, you sound like my therapist." I thought that one of the reasons why he broke up with me was that I'd gained a bit of weight, which makes sense because my idea of going to the gym is like, put the sports bra on, take the sports bra off. Put the sports bra on, take the sports bra off. Like, I swear you do 12 sets of that, you'll like really start to feel it in the delts. It's a good workout. So I called him out on it. I was like, "Hey, you broke up with me because I gained weight." And he was like, "Oh no, Hannah, no. You've never been skinny." Which, you know, I guess makes sense. It's true. I never did like to share my food with him.
That's hilarious, isn't it? Well, you know, you can check Hannah Becker's and the rest of the giggle stories on our website.
Definitely. And now time for the third challenge. The speed challenge. Did you think you were going to escape from using the bell, the honk, and the hammer? Here they are. As always, we want you to guess names of films based on or inspired by true stories. We give you the clue and you use the instrument to answer. You guys ready?
I missed all that because I was doing my stretches. Can you repeat that? No, I'm joking.
Well, okay. The first one goes like that. The true and sad story of the largest cruise ship.
Titanic.
That's correct.
He answered without even...
That's point to you. But just a warning, for the next time, you have to wait for me to give you the chance to answer. But job well done, 3 points for you.
Oh, yes.
Here I go. A drama about Nelson Mandela with Mark.
Victoria. Invictus, that's it.
Oh! That's the attitude.
Oh!
Yeah, I'm really excited. That means that the score is really
Okay,
tight.
we continue. A book and a film about colonial Africa with Meryl
Patricia.
Streep.
Out of Africa.
Out of Africa.
Africa, that's
you.
right.
Well done.
Think of the title.
That was hard. Here I go. Russell Crowe as the Nobel laureate John Nash.
The Beautiful Mind.
The Beautiful Mind. Correct. Wow.
The story of the hiker Christopher McCandless across
Into the
America,
Wild. That's
yes,
correct. Points to you.
and into Alaska.
An awarded biographical film about Mozart. Patricia.
Amadeus.
Amadeus, correct. Point to you.
A Wall Street stockbroker played by DiCaprio.
Mark.
Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street.
Yes,
That is
well
correct. Marion Cotillard is one of the best French singers. Mark.
Avion Rouge.
That is
what?
L'Avion Rose.
L'Avion Rose. L'Avion Rose.
Yeah, your pronunciation was awful, but the title was correct.
What? I think he was thinking of Moulin Rouge.
Yeah.
L'Avion Rose. L'Avion Rose. Okay, L'Avion Rose. Rose. Rouge. Rose. Come on.
That is correct.
That's
Okay.
unfair. You are not looking at my...
Guys, get focused because
Stop
there
complaining.
is three. There is not three, but a few more. So there is a lot of points at stake. So let's
All
move
right.
forward.
Elton John's musical story.
The Rocket Man.
The Rocket Man,
Yes.
correct.
Rocket Man.
Once does the. I mean, just one does the trick as well,
Not
Mark.
enough, obviously. Come on.
A famous slave upheaval in history brought to the cinema 20 centuries later.
didn't even
Patricia.
hear
No?
No. Spartacus.
That is correct, Kander. Yeah, that is correct, Spartacus. They are flipping out.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're flipping
I
out.
love this guy.
Can I go see it and just watch? This is way funnier.
I was.
Okay, whatever.
We don't need to know what you were
This is the
doing.
speed challenge. Alan Turing's story to crack the Enigma code.
Oh, Kander. Now?
The imitating.
The imitation theory, the imitation game.
The imitation game.
Yes,
The imitation game. I
Okay.
love this energy. All right, now we watch anyone McGregor in a disaster movie about the effects of a tsunami. Mark?
Lo imposible.
And in English, the impossible. That is correct.
Okay, and
the
last one.
The last
Three
one.
black female mathematicians working for the NASA.
Come on, guys. This is one of my favorite films. Three black female mathematicians. Come on.
I know. Working for the NASA.
Two, you're breaking my heart.
I know.
And it's a very feminist film.
It's all right, we got it last year.
It's great.
Time's up. Hidden Figures.
Janelle Monáe is in it.
That is correct. They are amazing. Check the movie. All right, guys. So we have the score, and that was an amazing speed challenge. That was unbelievable, and that was very exciting and intense. So we have a winner who is Mark with 31 points.
Congratulations, Mark.
But
31 points. That's not bad.
That's not bad because Kander, our guest today, is a bit behind with 29 points, which is
very close.
Very close. And
Well done,
Patricia Scalona, for the first time or almost the first time, is like losing by a lot with almost 21
But I have to say
points.
something, can I?
Oh, I'm sure you are going to say
Don't
something.
let it say anything.
It's not.
You're-
It's completely unfair. La vie en rouge?
Of course, when you win is fair and when you lose is unfair. I
it's
get
not
that.
for me. I mean, he would win.
That means you were this close to
It's
lose.
impossible to talk to these people. They all speak at the same time. I was just going to say or ask Kandar if you enjoyed playing with us today.
I thoroughly enjoyed. Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
That's great.
But I would like to have a revenge game, someday.
I'm officially
And
apologizing.
we should make a biopic.
Exactly, yeah, definitely. We should make a biopic out of the Guess What quiz. Who would be the protagonist or the villain of the biopic? Maybe Patricia?
I would be Watson to her Sherlock. Any day.
Wow.
There you go.
I guess
There's
that's
a compliment.
Patricia.
There's a compliment.
Okay.
Thank you, Sergi. Until
Thank
next
you.
time, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Patricia, Mark, and Kandar
Thank you.
for
Thanks a
coming
lot.
and play with us. And we need to end here for today. Yeah, this is the end of our show number 60.
Wow.
That's a good number. We've had with us the big data specialist Joe Brew, the jazz musician Mar Vilaseca. We've got also book recommendations, words and facts, language tips, and of course, our Guess What quiz. You know that you can watch it all online if you missed it. But we'll be back next week. In the meantime, you can follow us on social media, post the solution to Mario Serra's Guess Word puzzle, which is a sleeveless garment for American winners. 4 letters.
Four letters.
Easy one. Stay tuned, keep up your English, and have a great week. Bye-bye.